All right. So apparently you're going to be airing my dirty laundry. Is that what you're saying on our text?
Yeah. I
Well,
mean,
yes.
I've got to find it first. That's the tricky part. That's it. That's
Good
like,
luck finding it, Simon.
yeah, I
Okay.
know. You've got a team. They're keeping you hidden.
Listen, my team's amazing. It's a team
Yeah.
of one. Okay.
Yeah, that was pretty great. You sent me a nice what do you call it? A Galentine's, you
Yeah.
know, just
Yeah.
like a nice little note yesterday saying, uh we're we're great. You like our episodes we do together, stuff like that. And I shot you down because I'm an asshole.
Typical Simon stuff,
Yeah.
man. I was actually genuinely like, you know what? I got to listen to this last episode again. I don't know. I was just like, what it was? It was like I was getting all this data that all of a sudden all these people are listening to my podcast and our episodes on Amazon Music. I'm like, really?
Oh,
It's weird.
interesting.
All
Yeah.
this data. I'm like, And then I came across our podcast. I was like, oh, I got to listen to this again. And I'm
Yeah.
listening to it. I was like, man, we have great chemistry, man. It's just so much. It's not like any of my other podcasts, which are great, but there's
Yeah,
something different here.
absolutely.
There's a different
Absolutely.
thing happening here.
I think the difference is that I suck at everything.
What?
I just I just turned on my other computer and I like had my elbow on something and it's like trying to type a password and I'm sorry.
It's
I'm a
okay.
mess.
It's
I'm a mess.
what is the difference? I mean, like,
I and now it keeps reawakening. I've got to
yeah,
move.
I feel like
I
this is the same thing. I mean, like,
this is
what's the
just
difference?
Darian, you ever feel like everybody else has it put together except you? I mean, you
No,
probably don't feel that way because you've got it all put together.
I
You've
never
got
feel
yourself
like
put
that
together. Yeah,
ever.
yeah, yeah. It's my whole freaking life, man. I'm just like, yeah, they've got it figured out. But
Yeah. Yeah.
actually, okay, so the movie we watched was Parenthood.
Parenthood. Let me say something first. When
Yeah,
I watch, this is one of my, actually, I'm not sure how you feel about it, but it was one of my favorite movies at the end of the 80s. What are you eating? Is that an olive?
olives. I'm feeling
1989,
peckish.
interesting year. 1989,
Mhm.
interesting
Yeah,
year. But one of my favorite Steve Martin movies, actually, for it.
yeah,
And I thought about you a lot when I watched this movie. I was like, Simon has
interesting.
a lot of kids. I was
Yeah.
like,
He has a moment in the movie where he's kind of having a little mental emotional breakdown. He's like, "Well, let's have four kids. Oh, let's just go ahead and have five kids. Why not six kids?" And I'm just like, "That's not that many.
I was like, I did it.
No big whoop."
so, I really like, I have very fond memories of this movie, watching it. And my wife was like, I don't remember a lot about this movie. So she watched it with me and she was like, I love this movie. I forgot how good I really like. There's a lot of reality to
If
it.
Yeah, I think so. I think Steve Martin's character was supposed to be like 35,
35. Yeah.
and I'm like, "Holy cow, you and I are like 10 years older than this guy." But I feel younger than his character.
Way younger.
Which is really interesting. But I realize that his kids in the movie are younger than my kids. I mean, Darian, by the end of this year, I'll be the father of three legal adults. You know what I'm saying? I mean, that's really weird
It's very
for
weird.
a lost boy perpetually feeling young and never feeling like I'm getting older. It's strange to think that. Oh my God, you know how it is. It's like you do you get this when you watch pro sports?
Yeah.
You're like, oh crap, I'm like 20 years older than these guys.
I'll tell you exactly this. Jalen Hurts is 24, the quarterback for the Eagles in the
Yeah,
Super Bowl. And I looked at him and Shaw and said, like we could be his parents. I
right.
said, but I don't feel like I'm like older than him. Like I look at myself and I go, I don't know, it seems similar. I mean, I was like,
Well, I mean, black don't crack, you know. I mean,
I don't feel like that I'm like 20 years older than this guy, you
no,
know,
yeah.
like mentally or physically. I don't see it.
However, I've been limping for over a week now with an injury that seriously just jumping. I was just doing change of direction plyometrics. That's all I was doing. And didn't and I wasn't even doing it very well. That's the problem, right?
Right. Come on, Simon.
I mean, I was getting into it, and then I was like, well, and it was one of those moments where it's like it wasn't this huge pain, but it was just one of those moments where you're just like, nope, gotta stop because
Yeah.
can't use that leg anymore.
You're getting older guy injuries now, man.
I know, that's what I'm saying. I'm just like,
Sad.
wait a minute. And it's but to to my credit, the last injury Zion Williamson, got in his hamstring.
Yeah.
He's just like jogging down the court, and all of a sudden he's like got an injury. I'm like, all right, if it can happen
Bad sign,
to,
man.
yeah, if it can happen to that guy. It is a bad sign. It's, man, I feel like sports are such a good metaphor for so many things, and one of those things is untapped potential
Yeah.
and the things that hinder us from that untapped potential. And I'm hoping and praying that Zion Williamson gets healthy and has a stellar career, but he's spent more time injured than he's been healthy so
Yeah.
far. It's been about 3 years or so that he's
Yeah.
been a professional
Yeah.
athlete. And we've seen that so many times. Somebody comes into the league with great promise, and they have a career-ending injury in their rookie season.
Yeah.
And it's just like, oh my gosh, and that's part of what makes a LeBron James so freaking amazing.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I mean, think about it. LeBron James is probably the perfect body type for a basketball player.
Yeah,
Perfectly constructed, not like freakishly tall, like for the NBA, like 6'8", great condition, just great personality, mentality for playing the game, all around player, and met the expectations and exceeding them from high school onto towards the end of the career. I mean, this pretty amazing actually. Zion is not going to happen. No way. And
no,
he's
he's not
also a
going to have a
candidate to
20-year
be
career.
incredibly, I hate to say this, to be incredibly obese when he's done playing, unless he gets a hold of that.
Yeah,
Because he definitely is predisposed to being a larger dude.
definitely. And a lot of the talk of when people talk about who's the greatest of all time, who's
Yeah.
the GOAT, and they say,
Yeah.
oh, LeBron doesn't have that killer instinct. And I think part of that has kept him in the game.
Yeah.
And that killer instinct is probably what wore Kobe out.
Right.
I mean, Kobe had a long career,
Did.
but
Yeah.
toward the end, he was so hampered by injury that he just couldn't do what LeBron is
Yeah.
doing.
Yeah.
And I think part of that is that, his killer instinct to always go 1,000%
Yeah.
shortened, or it probably didn't shorten his career, but it shortened his productivity
Yeah.
in his career because of the injuries. And that's kind of a crazy thing to say when you're talking about Kobe freaking Bryant, man.
Yeah.
That guy was
Amazing.
But
Yeah.
we weren't worried about him, cracking Kareem's scoring record.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
It's
LeBron
true.
James, I think you can argue that he hasn't been giving 1,000% the way Kobe did, the way
Sure.
maybe a Michael Jordan did. You can make that argument, but his more tortoise versus hare mentality in the league, he can play another 2-3 years and he's still gonna be great. He's
Sure.
This league, this year in this league, he's a top 5 player.
Oh yeah.
In year 20.
Yeah, no, it's amazing. It's actually amazing. The NBA is fairly unwatchable for me. I'm gonna be honest with you, man. It's like there's no offense, there's no defense. There's literally no defense.
That does frustrate me.
Literally, guys are scoring 60 and 70 and 50 like it's nothing.
Yeah.
It's like this is becoming a bad product. Honestly, it's not bad.
I understand that frustration completely because we're seeing somebody like a Luka Doncic who's scoring 60 and then grabbing almost like 20 rebounds and stuff like that. And I'm just like, there's just no way, and especially with the consistency that these guys are doing it.
Yeah.
And I will grant you that I think players today are more offensively talented
Agreed.
than players in the 80s and 90s, and just across the board. Like every player in the NBA today is probably more offensively talented than most players from the 80s and
Sure.
90s. So I grant that, but at the same time, I'm just like, yeah, but you look at the defense that Michael Jordan had to push his way through.
I mean, they were clotheslining guys, literally.
Yeah.
It's like,
And I'm not really, advocating, trying to hurt people, obviously.
yeah,
But it does diminish, in a way, the accomplishments of today's athletes, that they don't have the challenges that yesterday's athletes had.
yeah. It's like movies to me. I'm going to make this analogy. Kind of like your 80s basketball, 90s basketball. The scores are like 89 to 95 type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
These are kind of like your original score movies. It's like, wow, these are really good movies, well thought out. There's a lot going on here, strategy, post up, some threes, elbow jumpers. And now the NBA is kind of like a superhero movie. The stats are like superhero movies. Let's just put this bullshit out and blow up a bunch of stuff.
That's an apt analogy.
Right. And then
That's
people
apt.
will love the offense and people
Yeah.
would love the superhero powers with the
Yep.
lack of the story. And it's watered down the sport tremendously, in my opinion. And same with movies. It's the same thing to me.
I agree. Still the most exciting player I think that's ever been on the court to watch was Dominique Wilkins.
Human highlight.
There's a reason they called him the human highlight film. I mean, he was just so exciting to watch.
Yes.
And it was exciting because he was doing stuff that nobody else was doing. I mean, Michael Jordan couldn't dunk the way Dominique dunked. I know he won the competition and everything, but game time, jumping over people,
crazy,
grabbing rebounds and jamming them back in the hoop and stuff like that. There was just nobody who could do that the way Dominique was doing it. Today, you're seeing that kind of stuff a lot.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's because the players are that much better. I mean, they're better, but they're not that much better. To your point, it's like they just have a lot more opportunity. The focus is away from amazing defense. I love watching, even go back and look at the LA versus Sixers finals with Kobe and Shaq versus what's his
Iverson.
Face? Yeah, Iverson. Those are rough games.
Rough games.
They're slow. They're slow games because the defense is everything. You've got Kobe, Shaq, and Iverson, guys who can light it up against anybody, but these are some slow, defense-oriented games.
Yes. Big time.
And I love those games.
Me too.
I love them. It just feels like the grind. You're just up against this grind, and it doesn't matter how good you are. You're not scoring 60.
No. And every possession towards that second half was really important. It was like teetering.
Yeah.
A turnover was big. And that's my problem with today's games. It's like, okay, back in the day, like when Michael averaged 30, it's like hard to average 30 a game. You know who's averaging 30 points a game this year? Like Shane Gilgeous, whoever from Oklahoma. I'm like, come on, seriously, man. I'm like, there's like 8 or 9 guys averaging 30. Seriously, how is that possible? Like
LeBron's in year 20 averaging 30.
Come on, man. If there was still hand checking and tougher defenses, I honestly don't think LeBron would still be playing, because he would be getting punished regularly by players.
Yeah.
It's kind of like the NFL. These players are playing longer that aren't getting touched that much. Like the quarterback is now playing way longer because the quarterback's not getting Joe Montana out there, just getting pummeled on every play.
Yeah.
It was like, I'm going to have a 20-year career in the NFL. That's unheard of in the past.
I know. And, I'm open to things changing
Me
because,
too.
once again, like I don't want these NFL players leaving the league with brain
Me
damage.
neither.
I just don't. So, and I want NBA players to feel like they can have a long career and I mean the average NBA career I think is like 4 years.
Yeah. But imagine if Michael and all these and Dominique were playing in a non-hand check game today, no defense.
Oh,
There's a realistic thing that Dominique and Michael will be scoring 45 a game. That's not even a joke. That's
that's
like
not
a
a
realistic
that's
number.
not a joke.
Like,
If you don't have to get through the Boston Celtics or the Piston Bad Boys to get to the finals, then you're kind of coasting.
you're
You know what I mean?
coasting.
If you're
Yeah.
Michael Jordan, you're kind of coasting. But Michael Jordan couldn't get there basically until the Celtics and the Bad Boys were kind of over.
Right.
So no matter how great Jordan was, he couldn't get to the finals
Yeah.
until basically till Larry Bird retired. Let's
Right. And
face it.
Magic got older.
Yeah.
Right. And there was a center, a legitimate center that actually rim protected. These guys now shoot
Yeah.
threes. There's no center.
I
So
know.
getting to the rim is not hard anymore.
Yeah,
It's
they're
not
hanging out at
hard.
the 3-point line.
Everybody can get to the rack now. That's why you're getting all these dunks and stuff. There's no rim
Yeah.
protection.
That's
Like,
that. Yeah, it used to be amazing to see Michael rise up over Patrick Ewing.
oh,
And you're
I
just like,
mean,
oh my gosh. But it was like a once in a game series
yes,
moment.
right.
And now it's like a 3-time per game moment where you see guys rising up because Patrick Ewing's not down there.
No one's down there. Like, it's hard to compare. It's like, okay, who's the best? But like, if you put the numbers would not be inflated if they played when there was like literally people getting clotheslined and stuff, and
Yeah.
vice versa. There may be, I don't know. It's difficult to say, but I just think it parallels movies so much.
I think you're right. I
And I
think
think
that was
both the
really
movies
good
have gone
parallel.
downhill. The movies have gone downhill in general, the same way the NBA has gone downhill, because it's all now it's like superheroes dominating, super teams dominating. Like it's like
Mhm.
the same arc, and the products are getting worse.
Yeah. Didn't it didn't it feel like if you had two A-list actors in a movie growing up that was like a big deal?
Right.
Now you'll have, 10, it's like
You're like, how many people can be like you know what? Just as a good example, I just saw another trailer for like another Fast and the Furious movie. I mean, how many of these movies can there actually be? Was it up to like 12
that's
or 13?
insane. That's
And
insane.
there's like 8 to 10 super popular actors in it. I don't think it's any good, probably.
I'm gonna admit to you that I've never seen a single Fast and Furious movie.
That's not
All,
surprising, by the
all
way.
I've had to do is watch a trailer. I'm like, I'm not into that. What's really funny is that okay, so a couple years ago there was some trailer and what's the lead guy's name for those Fast and Furious movies?
Vin Diesel.
Vin Diesel. There's like something in the trailer and I can't remember how it all is going, but he's like on top of one car and that car crashes and he like flies across an interstate or something like that and lands on another car. And as a human, as just a normal human, he's not Captain America with a super soldier serum. He's not the Hulk, with gamma radiation. He's just a normal human guy. And the reason I bring it up is that I thought it was really funny recently when I was hearing a commentator about films and talking about action films and how they're just not believable anymore. But he said, but you do still have, series like the Fast and Furious that try to keep it more grounded. And I was like, dude, I haven't even watched one. All I've seen is a trailer. And I know that stuff ain't grounded. All right. I mean, Vin Diesel in that movie might as well have been Optimus Prime.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? I mean, there was no grounding.
It's crazy, actually. It's actually crazy. I know you're happy about the fact that there's another Transformers movie coming out too. You gotta be.
Is there?
Yeah, it's like
my goodness.
they're doing the whole play on like like the Transformers who are like animals, the beast, like the gorilla and all this stuff.
Oh,
like
see,
that.
I was out by then.
I was out too.
I was out by then. Yeah,
Like,
I don't know anything about him.
but they're doing that,
Were
and I
were
know
they
you're not going to
popular
see it.
enough that to make a movie with them?
I don't
I
have
have no
no
idea.
clue.
You and I have
I'm
no
like,
idea.
I don't
You and I have
know.
no idea.
I
We're
have
just
no
like,
clue. I stopped a long time
listen,
ago.
yeah. I mean, listen, if it's 1984 and you got Bumblebee and Optimus, then I'm
Yeah,
kind of in. But past like 85, 86, whenever it was like the cartoon, the TV
yeah,
cartoon, the
yeah.
original cartoon was over, I'm like, I don't know anything about this crap now. I just don't
I
know.
was laughing when I saw the trailer, and I was like, Simon would be so pissed about this.
Oh man. Well, I mean, good for them. Keeping a
Yeah,
lot of people employed, I guess.
that's
It's
true. They
just
must be making money if they're keep doing this stuff.
I I just can't fathom who keeps going back. That's the thing. It's like I really just like movie theater attendance is way down.
Right.
Apparently, that's what I've been seeing in some headlines lately, and
Yeah,
they've been
I
like
believe it.
maybe trying to restructure the seat pricing and everything to get people back. I don't know if any of that's going to work. I'm just like, hey, you know what you should do? You should make a good movie.
We have the solution to movie theater attendance. Make a good movie.
Yeah, and all these movie houses stop sending everything straight to streaming.
Right. Yes.
I
Stop
mean,
giving people stuff so quickly on the streaming.
I hated Glass Onion,
Yeah, I
but
know.
that's a feature film.
Yes.
That's not a streaming movie. Why did that go straight to streaming? Especially with the success of the first film.
Right.
People are going to buy tickets for that. So why did it go straight to streaming?
I don't know.
Sorry, movie industry. This is on you.
Yeah.
It's not on us, man.
Yeah.
you know?
No.
I'm trying to find a movie that I'm actually excited about seeing in the movie theater. Because there are movies that are just like, okay, I don't mind watching that on TV. And then there are other
Yeah.
movies that I'm like, okay, that if I'm gonna watch it, I might as well go to the theater to watch it because it's a big screen movie.
Simon, Creed 3, are you in the movie theaters?
I don't know. I don't know. I'm leery about Creed 3. Creed 2 disappointed me so much.
Yes, we talked about it. I remember. Yeah.
Yeah. And I felt like it did so little with so much.
Yeah.
There are movies that do that. They take these concepts that are like so good and get you, especially if you've been like you and I watching since the early 80s, these Rocky films. And then you say, oh, you're bringing back Drago and you're doing this stuff. And then you do nothing with it, like literally nothing.
Right.
And it's like, well, why am I going to care about this next one? I mean,
they try to hit the wave, the Jonathan Majors wave, who's like the big it guy now in Hollywood, who I think
sounds
is
like
an
he deserves to
excellent
be.
actor, man.
Sounds like he deserves to be the
Everything
next
I've seen
big,
that
big
dude
thing.
in, he touches, he crushes. Like, so I'm gonna say right here, I'm gonna go see it in the movie theaters because of Jonathan Majors, because I think he's an excellent actor.
So that's interesting you brought that up because I think I'm going to go see the next Ant-Man movie because of
Really?
Jonathan Majors. I
Kang,
think I'm going
right?
to see it in the movie.
Yeah.
Yeah. I listened to a non-spoiler review the other night. It was a quick one. Somebody who got to see an early screening of it, and they were just gushed about Jonathan Majors
Yeah.
and that it's his movie.
Mm.
So when you have a great actor who's playing a villain and they take over the movie, I mean, that's a Dark Knight Rises kind of, and I'm not
It is.
expecting Dark Knight,
Sure.
or not Dark Knight Rises, The Dark Knight.
Yeah.
And I'm not expecting a Heath Ledger Joker performance, I mean, not that Jonathan Majors isn't capable of that, but I don't know if Marvel is capable of that. You know what I mean?
Sure.
I think Christopher Nolan is capable of giving an actor
Yes.
that kind of role. I don't know if Marvel is capable at this point
Mm.
of giving an actor that kind of role. So I'm not setting the bar that high. But just to your point about this Jonathan Majors, he seems like super legit amazing actor. I hope he's just has all the success in the world.
Yeah.
There's guys like that, and it's interesting. I'm a huge Denzel Washington fan.
Oh, me too.
And, but he came out of an era of filmmaking that was nothing like today's era.
Nothing.
Nothing
Yeah.
like it. So the first time I became cognizant of uh, of Denzel was the movie Glory.
Oh, great movie, man.
We watched that in school, in like
Mm-hmm.
history class or something.
Yeah.
And Denzel had an important role, but it wasn't a huge role, but it was a standout. Oh my gosh. When I
Yes.
saw him, he's got that scene right where he's getting whipped.
And he's just looking at the camera, basically.
Yeah, and he has that tear going down.
Yeah.
And oh my gosh. I
Yeah.
saw that and I'm like, that's an actor.
That's an actor.
That is an actor. And he's proved it. I mean, he's been in some duds, but his
Yeah.
performance, he's proved it every single time. Every single time he's on screen. He's not phoning anything in.
Ever.
He's
No.
Denzel freaking Washington.
He is Denzel freaking Washington. He crushes it. Generally crushes most things he does. And I love seeing these guys ascending like a Jonathan Majors. And you look at his growing body of work, it's very diverse. He's definitely not pigeonholed into
I
certain things.
I need to look at his filmography because
It's
honestly,
good,
I haven't seen him in a lot of things yet, so I need to look at it again. I've only taken notice of him as he's really blown up, and he's
Yeah.
been in these big blockbuster movies. So I'm gonna have to
Yeah, check it
I'm gonna
out.
have to look at
Devotion's
him.
excellent. Lovecraft on I think HBO Max. It's like kind of a sci-fi thing.
Mhm.
He has good control. Like he feels like he's very um masterful in the performance. Like he knows how to sway the emotion of the scene very well, you know.
I love that. I love I've never seen Westworld,
I
the
watched the
new
first
one.
season and after that I dropped out, man. It was like,
Um the oh my gosh, I'm just blanking on his name. Um he's the older actor. He played Hannibal Lecter.
yeah.
Uh come on.
Sir what's his name? No, wait a minute.
He's like I think
Anthony
he's the
Hopkins,
own
right?
yeah, Anthony
Yeah.
Hopkins. Yeah.
Yeah. Sir Anthony
That's
Hopkins.
right. Sir Anthony Hopkins. I love acting. I love seeing breakdowns of actors' techniques. And somebody did a marvelous breakdown of a very simple scene that he was in from Westworld. And it's kind of like he's having tea with somebody and they're just talking about things. And I don't know the plot of Westworld. I don't know anything about it. So, none of that mattered though, because what they were showing, what they were demonstrating is how he, in a matter of about a second and a half, had demonstrated a sweep of emotion. Like somebody had thrown kind of an accusation at him, and he'd gone from disturbed at that accusation to ponderous to amused before he responds with his rebuttal. And he does it so fluidly. And you think about a lesser actor trying to do that and how unfluid and mechanical
Yeah.
it would be. But for somebody like Anthony Hopkins, I mean, so just to your point, a great actor commands the emotion of the scene and they can do it so subtly. You don't know what they're doing.
Yeah.
You just feel what they're doing.
Right. The feeling. That's
Hmm.
where it really I think is missing from so many of the movies. So I'm happy like people like a Jonathan Majors is rising and is it's like, okay, well now we have I hate to say this, but I'm just gonna say it. Now we have like a more legitimate trained actor versus getting The
Hmm.
Rock, Kevin Hart, all these guys are just for
Yeah.
box office appeal and popularity, but like someone who is really into the craft, studied the craft. You should look at
Yeah.
his background. His background
Yeah.
is fascinating. It's really
Hmm.
good stuff, man. You
Interesting.
would respect him a lot for what he's
Yeah.
done. Just amazing.
Which I really don't respect anybody. So that's
I'm
a tall
surprised you
order.
respect me at this point.
Yeah.
I'm like, I mean, all the disrespectful texts and stuff. I mean, it's like,
Well, I mean, I'm just keeping it real, man.
I mean,
Keeping it
real
real.
disrespectful,
Just
man.
keep one moment while I eat another olive.
I mean, I have to keep listening to this blonde hair dye commercial all the time and stuff. which gets better. It keeps getting better every
I
time.
was so glad that you appreciated
Oh.
my most recent one, because I was like, you know what? Most people aren't going to even realize what the heck I'm talking about.
Paradigm shifts, soul thing, brilliant. I mean, it's not this part of the show yet, but seriously, Simon's podcast is brilliant. It's brilliantly put together. It's a masterclass in thoughtfulness. Brilliant.
I really appreciate that. I'm trying to do a through thread through this entire podcast, and you know how that is, because you've just been starting to release uh Lust for God,
Yeah,
for the
for the
lust of
lust of
God,
God. Yeah.
which is so good.
Thank
And
you.
the first episode, it's kind of like this introductory episode. Now you go into the first perspective of somebody, Olivia, in the second episode. And I can't wait till the third, because I know I'm going to get another
It's out today, man.
perspective. It's out today.
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. So, but you know how difficult it can be to create a narrative through line through multiple episodes.
Yes. Most
You know,
definitely.
and it is difficult, and it takes a lot of thought, and it's very stressful.
Yes.
And especially if you're the only one working on it. I think a lot of people forget that there's often a team of writers
Right.
who are working on something, or somebody might have written an original script, and then it gets touched by a few different hands, honestly, along the way.
Yeah.
Before it becomes a thing. And that happens in books and things like that. Shannon and I went to a great it's like a live interview. This was back in Portland. Oh gosh, I'm blanking on his name now. Tia Hasi. Oh no, I'm getting it wrong.
It's okay.
Anyway, writes a book. He comes from a journalist background. Anyway, one of the things he talked about as an author, you normally think of just the author just typing away on their own, and they're creating their little masterpiece. But what he emphasized was his team. He had, I can't remember, 3 or 4 readers who were reading along the way, giving him feedback. He has management. He has, other people who are just giving him input, who are helping him craft and mold this book into what it becomes. It's a solo effort that's not a solo effort.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people forget that. So when you're taking on a project like your podcast, like my podcast, that are true solo efforts, it's a big it's a big deal.
It is a big deal. It's a lot of work, man.
It's a lot of work. It takes a lot of time.
Yes.
And that's why I'm always amazed at how many episodes that you produce, how many people you talk to.
Right.
Because I know it's not just sitting down and talking to people. It's all, it's all the other stuff. It's putting it together. It's putting it out. And it's having other responsibilities.
That's right.
On the side, you're a husband, a father. You have another career, a totally separate career that has nothing to do with your podcast, and it's a lot to take on. And I'm busily writing the script for my next episode that I'm supposed to record and release tomorrow.
Yeah, this is such a Simon thing. This is such a Simon thing.
But but it's. I'm just trying to get at, reinforce like how stressful it is. Like, I have nothing on the line. If I don't release an episode tomorrow, there's no consequences.
Same here, man.
Yeah. But I still feel that huge weight on my shoulders to produce something that is worthwhile.
Yes.
That is worth people's time. And my episodes are much shorter than yours.
Right.
I try to keep it around 20 minutes, but still, even that 20 minutes, it's like, if I'm going to take 20 minutes from you, that's what I'm doing. I'm taking 20 minutes from somebody.
Yeah.
So did I give you back something in exchange for that 20 minutes that was worth your time? Are you hearing all the noise?
I'm hearing what's going on in your place here, man.
I think there's an intruder.
What is this? We're going to have our first guest appearance?
I have 2 boys home. One of them's home. He's feeling ill. And the other one is my adult son, Moses, who's, but anyway, I had told them both that I'm doing this, so they have
Yeah.
to be quiet, but they're in there just like ransacking the joint.
Well, this is a good segue into parenthood, I think. When
Yeah.
children into this, this is you listen to this. This is what Simon and I do. We go on and this and that. We do a different thing. We finally get to the movie.
We
We're gonna
finally
get
get
to
to it. We
we
finally
get to
get
the
to it.
movie. So
Yeah.
I mean, you watched this back in the day, yes, or
Yeah, I
okay,
did. And I'll tell you, this was a movie that I was too immature at the time to enjoy, like really enjoy.
yeah,
Like there were moments I enjoyed, but the movie as a whole was not a movie I would have let. Oh, let's watch Parenthood.
yeah, yeah,
When 12 or 13-year-old Eli wasn't like, come on, let's watch Parenthood.
right.
It's like, no, let's watch Three Amigos. If we're gonna watch
Yeah,
Steve Martin,
exactly. Yeah,
let's watch,
little Chevy Chase. Come on.
yeah. Um, but exactly your wife's reaction watching it again today, 30 years later, however long it's been. And I'm like, oh, geez, what a great movie.
Yeah.
What a great movie. I'd forgotten it was directed by Ron Howard.
Ron Howard, right? Great.
And I was like, oh, man. There's a lot of people involved in this movie that I feel like they were involved in this movie in their prime. And to that comment we said earlier, I mean, was Steve Martin ever A-list? I don't know.
Right. He was almost like right below it. Like he was
Yeah.
kind of lurking around there.
Exactly. And then you had he played one of the other husbands.
Rick Moranis.
Rick Moranis.
Right? We talked about Rick
Yeah,
Moranis.
he's not A-list. He has this
No.
great career, but he's not A-list. But one of my favorite actresses plays Steve Martin's wife,
Mary Steenburgen.
Bergen.
Yeah.
Oh man, I tell you, that's a woman that I had a crush on.
Really?
Ever? Yeah, I don't know, something about her. The mom next door.
The mom next door. Fun fact, Simon, you're not going to be the only one that looks up stuff about movies and says things.
All right, great.
I'm doing it this time, buddy.
Good,
all right.
Good.
So I looked up her character, according to Ron Howard, they were supposed to show her on screen being this really tired mom at the end of the day and then smoking a joint every night.
Oh.
And Mary Steenburgen, she said she objected to it. She said a mom who has it together wouldn't do that. And I was like, I don't know about that. I was like, but
what a different time, though.
It's a different time.
Mentality.
Today's parents, I know a lot of parents will do that.
And they have it together.
Back then, I understand the time of it. So she convinced Ron Howard to take that out of the script.
Interesting. That probably would have given it an R rating just to show drugs, on screen.
Yeah.
That's really interesting. Well, I'm going to disagree with her on that one.
Yeah.
I'm going to disagree. Yeah. I think that would have actually enriched her character. I think, we could have even seen that she stops doing that.
Right.
Because now she knows she's pregnant. Because there's a scene in the movie where they talk about, she says, I never smoked when I was pregnant, but she was a chimney back in college.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah, there's great moments like that. And that was one of the best things about this movie. I felt like that, it's a microcosm. So there's a lot going on, and perhaps in real life, there's not that much going on all at once. However, it felt really real. It felt like, and I really loved how they gave the older people moments to shine. Jason Robards as the dad. Yeah, he's not a good dad. He's he was never great. But when he gives that speech about how there's never a moment as a parent that you get to spike the football in the end zone. You did it. It's like you just keep going.
Yeah.
And it never ends. That sounds almost hopeless. And he goes from that, and he presents his deadbeat son who's got the huge debt, with this plan. And for this brief moment, you think maybe there's this hope that he's going to help reform his son. And that's kind of a running theme throughout. Steve Martin is trying to be dad of the year to help his son, who has some just emotional, mental
Yeah.
difficulties.
Right.
And you just see that no, there's no easy answer. There's
Yeah.
no, oh, we fixed it, we did it. No, you just keep working at it. And
Yeah.
sometimes you just let your son go and you take care of their son and you say, all right, now I'm great grandpa
Yeah.
raising my son's illegitimate,
Right.
kid.
Yeah. And you realize, especially when the guy's always, you realize he's like a junkie for gambling. He's hooked to it. He
Yeah.
has this addiction. And when the part where the dad realizes it finally, he's never going to change.
Yeah.
And it's like it's heartbreaking knowing that someone that you raised in many ways you turned out that way, and you
Yeah.
just guilt and the shame and the hope that you want them to change, but realize you really can't control someone. They're going to go to Vegas, they're going to go to down to South America. You can't do anything about it. Like you just it's hard to see that.
So on the flip side of that, and I've said this before on this podcast, I think this is why I don't take any credit for my kids. Like people tell me all the time that I have great kids, and I agree with them
Yeah.
100%. They have their struggles, they have their challenges. We had some stuff going on very recently that was like watching this movie Parenthood it was almost like triggering, I mean, it was just like, oh my gosh, it's getting too real.
Is this too close to home?
Yeah, but the kids will just be who they are.
Yeah.
And yeah, there is nurture, obviously. There's not just nature, there is nurture.
Course.
So I've been trying to nurture them. But no matter how much you nurture a child, they still make their own choices. At the end of the day, you can have one kid who is just the next pope or whatever,
Right.
whatever you think is great.
Yeah,
And then
right.
you have the other kid who's addicted to gambling and
Yeah.
then, running, to South America to escape, the
Yeah.
bookies and everything.
Right.
You were the same parent
Right.
to both of these kids.
Exactly. It's just like I told my wife, I said, it's probably one of the more realistic versions of parenting on screen. Like
Yeah.
in many ways, I know there's a lot going on, but it like touches on all these different dynamics of families. You
Mhm.
this kind of the like Rick Moranis's character. I'm trying to create this genius child,
Yep.
and then the very best intentions,
He's got all the literature in his corner.
everything. I got all the facts.
Yep.
But meanwhile, the kid's weird to other kids. Like he sees Steve Martin's youngest son as like an idiot. He's right.
And
He kind of is.
He is. That was a great scene where Steve Martin's kid is spinning in circles and she's like, why is he doing that? And it's like, because he thinks it's fun. He's like, it doesn't look fun.
Great.
They had some great kid actors in here too.
Oh, man.
And they gave them just enough screen time. I feel like if you give young actors too much screen time, you
Yeah.
start to really see the weakness of a kid actor.
Yeah.
But if you give them just enough, they're just like, all right. And they really hit the sweet spot in this movie of giving the kids just enough screen time to that they were convincing, they were good. They had some really touching and emotional scenes with involving the kids and stuff. But yeah, we weren't kind of taken out of the movie thinking about, oh, these kid actors aren't so great, are they?
And what's funny? I was watching, I was like, Joaquin Phoenix. I totally forgot he was in this movie, man.
That was so funny because when he first opens the door to peek out of his bedroom to try and sneak out of the house, I was like, oh my gosh, who is that? I was trying to place who it is. And finally it dawned on me about, I don't know, I think in the next scene that he was in, I was like, that's freaking Joaquin.
Yeah.
That's Joaquin Phoenix.
It's him.
And then you have Keanu Reeves.
Who played himself. Very much like,
Hey, yeah. And I mean, he was fine. He
Yeah,
was
no,
supposed to be a dopey idiot guy, and young Keanu Reeves plays that to a T.
to a T.
Yeah.
It was Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, pretty
It
much.
really was. I was just waiting for him to be like, excellent, you know. But even he, he showed at certain points that he was smarter than he let on. Like,
Right.
he could read between the lines. Like when the guy at the racetrack said, the audience loves it. Why don't you come back and do it again next weekend? He's like, oh,
Yeah.
great. I make a great, a
Yeah.
crash
Crash
dummy.
dummy. Yeah.
But he wants to be a legit racer. So anyway, they just did a great job. Like I
Yeah.
said, they didn't give Keanu Reeves' character too much screen time either, because
Which was
that could
good.
have really been a detriment to the movie if he would have been given too much time. But he was given just enough, and he was given just the right lines to say,
Yeah.
so that we got it, and we didn't need anything more from him.
Yeah. We're good here. I mean, that whole
Yeah.
dynamic in that family was so interesting to me. It was so heartbreaking when Gary calls his father and he
Oh,
wants to live with him.
yeah.
And you see the destruction in his face. And it's
Yep.
like, you don't know your dad the way I know him, and
Yeah.
that, divorced family, the hardship on that. I mean, it was just so raw. I loved how they portrayed that on
Yep.
there.
Yep. There's a scene where Joaquin is saying that, or not Joaquin, sorry. Keanu Reeves' character is speaking about Joaquin's character.
Yeah.
It's saying that, oh yeah, he really needs, a father figure. And I had a problem with that because I think it diminishes how amazing single mothers
Right.
often are and can be. But they made up for that by going later in the show, uh, where the mom and the Joaquin Phoenix character are having a little talk, and she's just telling him, I want you guys to have what you want, and that's the
Yeah.
best I can do. I was like, man, that's a really good summary of parenthood
Yeah.
right there. It really
Yeah.
was. It's like I know there are parents out there that are trying to push their kids into. I mean, Rick Moranis's character was that character. He's the
Right.
quintessential try to push my kid into becoming something,
Yes.
whether that's who they are or not. But the real parents who get it are probably the parents who struggle the most, because they are just trying to help their kids be themselves
Yeah.
and do the things that they want to do with their lives. And that's way harder than creating a model citizen.
It's a funny thing, man. It's like my daughter badly wanted to wear this like unicorn skirt to school today.
Hmm.
And a lot of her
And you were like,
friends.
no, I'm wearing that today.
Yeah, no, that's for me. Okay. Exactly. She's 11 and a half, and a lot of her friends are kind of turning away from that type of stuff.
Yeah,
And she just has this conviction. I just love this stuff. And it's like a very kind of outlandish, very bright thing. And I told her, I
I
said,
love it.
I want you to wear it. Like, go for it. I said, I didn't even say like, hey, other people may not think this is cool. I said, just do what you feel is right for this. It's if you want to wear it and this is how you feel, you want to express yourself. It wasn't crazy. Like, it's different. She's wearing some
Yeah.
skirt and it had like crazy, like, derogatory things on it and
Got some
stuff.
swastikas on
Yeah,
it.
I'm like, wait a
Yeah.
minute, we got to talk here about it. But I want, that line of like, how do I let my child express themselves in a way that feels very real to them and native to them, and not kill that in them?
Yep.
That's hard in many ways.
It is difficult, and it's difficult sometimes to find. So my youngest boy, like, he'll wear like he's like that true kid, boy, like
Yeah.
your quintessential boy who's gonna he'll wear the same dirty pants to school for a week, and you have to force him to change. You have to force, and this, that, and the other, because the one of the trickiest things about parenting is figuring out when the child is expressing themselves or when they're just lazy.
Yeah. Right. What's the line?
Yeah. So, that we attend church every Sunday, sometimes much to my chagrin, but so I have a lot of empathy for the kids who don't want to go.
Right.
But my reasons for not wanting to go aren't just because I'm lazy.
Right.
I mean, usually. All right, let's be honest. Sometimes I'm just like,
Just be honest, man.
yeah. But anyway, so and I'm not trying to diminish my kids either, because they can have their own reasons for wanting to do things. But what I've always said is, what will you do that's better?
Yeah.
It's like, are you gonna work on something? Or are you just gonna lie in bed? Because that's what the kid will do.
That's what the kid would do.
So I'm like, if you give me a better option and you show me that you've been doing that, that's a deal I made with our oldest daughter.
Yeah.
Back when she was a teenager. It's like, show me that you're going to do something more worthwhile with your time. But if you're just going to lie in bed, whatever, it's like, then you're coming to church with me.
Yeah.
Yeah. If for no other reason, just to get out of the house and socialize.
Yeah.
I don't care if you believe in anything. I just don't care. And I'm not trying to push belief onto you, but I am trying to get you out of the house and help you become part of a community of people who care about each other.
Yeah.
So and especially if you see that your child isn't really getting that in other places, because they're kind of isolating themselves from lots of things.
Yeah.
It's like, well, humans need humans.
Yes. That's what the show, I think, the movie, and like this crazy family dynamic, all these different family members, everybody's related to each other or not, and they're just trying to coexist. But everybody's like, I don't want to spend time with Gil. I really don't think, Gil has it all together, type of thing. Or, and then everybody sees, the wayward son coming back, and everybody's like, oh, don't give him any money.
Exactly.
It's like all this dynamic trying to coexist in all this chaos that it feels like on a regular basis. It is difficult.
And you just see that, within your own family, you're all so different.
Yeah.
And then you go out into the rest of the world and everybody's so different. I was actually just having this conversation with a friend of mine about, once again, about that aspect of time and giving and receiving time, and what a gift that is, and how there are so few people in the world that I want to give time to, because time is so precious, and I will procrastinate and just do everything I can to not give people my time. I'm like a Scrooge with time.
Time Scrooge, man.
Yeah, I just, it's okay. If you're going to get my time, then you better use it wisely, because otherwise I don't want to come back. That's, if I'm being honest, that's my problem with church, is that so often I feel like I just wasted or the people who were speaking or instructing just wasted 2 hours of my time.
Yeah.
It's like, you didn't present anything interesting, anything new. You didn't challenge me in any way. And I can't speak for everybody, but I mean, most of the people that I think are in that church with me have been going there long enough that they've heard all this crap before. So, I mean, come on, give me something.
I think that's a lot of people's church experience growing up, is this kind of forced attendance for something that's like dreadfully, painfully boring and uninteresting, but it has so much potential to be beautiful and incredible and transformative. But, it's like somebody told you you're going to go see the Rolling Stones, and then the Stones didn't show up. And you're like, well, we got this band here from, Pasaki, Illinois, or something like it. They're pretty good, these guys. It's you're like,
they do some Stone covers.
Yeah, it's it's kind of Stone light, it's like, it's like I'm stoned right now. Like, Catch me on a Friday. You'll see.
Yeah. Oh
Like,
man. That was my favorite when you messaged me about listening to my podcast, and I knew right away.
you
It
knew
was
I was
like just
high,
from
man.
your first
You
message.
knew I was
That's
high,
when
man.
I was like, oh, he's high, and that's the best way. That's the best
Best.
way to listen to something like what I'm putting out there.
I
Is
was
to,
deeply into it too. I'm like listening, hanging on every word. I'm just like, wow, Simon. Like, it's a great podcast to listen to when you're baked, man. Like,
oh man, that's beautiful. That's
but the
really
funny thing
beautiful.
is, then right after that, I listened to Science Plus God, and it
Oh
was
really?
awesome.
Oh
And it was
man, so
about the parallel between science and Christianity. I was like, this is very interesting to me.
you got
Like,
an earful.
I just
Yeah,
like want to like invade my brain with all these different things, you know. It's like, man, it's like I was telling you last time. I was like, I'd like to have a lot of different resources for my spirituality and my religions. And
exactly.
I feel like I need to feel like it's got to pull me in, you know, and honestly, it just has to. I hate to, it just does.
Yeah, and once again, it's not you and I need, flashbangs
Yeah.
and
Oh,
whizzy pops or whatever. It's like you don't need to, you know, in fact, it would totally turn you and I off to be in one of these mega churches where they have the big bangs
yeah.
or the big bands and stuff like that. I mean,
Yeah.
we would just laugh at that and mock it completely because what we want are ideas. And I think that goes back to the movies,
Yes.
that we were talking about, and it even goes back to sports, I think.
Right.
I mean, I so my son Phineas, my youngest, this is his first year playing basketball. So he's never played really. He's shot around on a basketball hoop. He's never played on a team. So he's just really getting to know the game this year. And we've had a lot of little conversations about it. And I've been telling him that one of my favorite things about basketball is how complex it is. That on the court you have to have an awareness of what 9 other guys are doing. You have to have an awareness of what 2 other coaches are doing. You have to have an awareness of what the referee is doing, where they're at, So, okay, what can I get away with,
Right.
basically, because the referee's over there, he's not looking at me. Um, and you have to develop almost a sixth sense, some kind of uh you have to become a basketball oracle because you have to be able to like know what's going to happen next. And the players who develop that, they become great.
Yeah.
And they and the uh what do you call that? There's a great, ancient Asian term for it. Being in the groove or being
Mm.
in the flow. You're in the
Oh,
flow.
okay.
So you're in that flow state.
Mm-hmm.
You're not thinking anymore.
Right.
You're doing.
Right. Time slows down. Things,
Yeah.
everything becomes bigger,
You're running faster than you've ever ran before, but things are happening slower than they've ever happened before
Yeah.
because you can see you're 2 steps ahead of the action. It's a beautiful thing. But it's you have to be so smart to be great. And that's why
Yes.
guys like Magic Johnson were great.
Right.
That's why Larry Bird was great. That's why Michael Jordan was great. That's why
Yes.
Kobe was great.
Yep.
And frankly, that's why LeBron James is great.
Most definitely.
I mean, on and on and on. And so anyway, that's where you and I are at. We're so interested in
Yes.
ideas. We're interested in seeing greatness played out in the mind.
Yes. Yes. And I think to kind of preview coming up this summer, Oppenheimer is coming out.
Oh,
Another
yeah.
Christopher Nolan movie.
Yeah.
Just saw the preview.
I haven't
Killian
watched the
Murphy.
preview.
Yeah.
I haven't watched it. I actually have no idea what it's about. I've actually
You're gonna love it.
I kind of want to keep it that way. I kind of want to
No,
go to
just
the
don't say
theater.
that. Don't say that. Like, I'm gonna tell you.
Oh,
Like,
dang it. Yeah.
enough of that. All right. I was like, I've had enough.
Okay.
bad text from you this week. I'm gonna tell you, like, you've been disrespectful. It's time for me to step on your feet.
Fine, fine.
Cillian Murphy, all right, Scarecrow from Dark
Yeah.
Knight, right? The whole thing, great actor, excellent actor.
Hmm.
He plays Oppenheimer, and essentially, this is the movie about the atomic bomb, essentially,
Yeah.
or the whole famous speech when I have become death. I've become the destroyer of worlds. I can't wait to
Hmm.
that scene. That scene's got to be in the movie. It has to be.
Yeah.
And the ramifications of humans developing something that could destroy all of humanity. I know Christopher Nolan is going to do this movie incredible justice. He's just
Yeah.
a masterful director. And he takes his time and he has thoughts and ideas to his movies
Yeah.
that are really important. So sorry I spoiled it for you, but I'm not sorry.
I mean, just from the name,
I
I
mean,
know
come
what
on,
it's
Simon.
basically about. But I've been like, okay, is he doing something weird with it? Is he just doing a straight up historical drama with it? I don't know. I've just been wanting to like stay away from it until I just go
Yeah.
see it. But yeah, spoilers, everyone.
I think it's going to
No,
be amazing, honestly, because
I
of
think
what
so
we
too.
say about it.
Yeah. Um, Christopher Nolan's one of those directors that even when I haven't been in love with the movie, it's like, but I see the ideas
Yes.
and I love the ideas. And sometimes in his movies he can really hit you over the head with them.
Yeah.
And and other times you can walk away and you're just like, I'm still trying to figure this out.
Yeah.
I think we mentioned Interstellar the other
Yeah.
episode. We kind of talked about that where it's like, I mean, I think I get it, but
Yeah. Right.
I
Maybe.
might not. I
Yeah.
might not get it at all.
Yeah.
And I really appreciate a movie like that. Have you seen the movie Tar yet?
No.
Kate Blanchett.
I've heard of it. I just haven't seen it.
I've been able to see half of it, and then our whatever stopped working,
Yeah.
and it wouldn't play the rest of it. And I was like, man, this is really too bad because man, was I loving that movie. And I
Wow.
think Kate Blanchett is just one of the all-time greats.
Amazing. Amazing.
And giving her this role with this kind of juiciness to it was just
Man.
mm.
Look at
And
Simon. He's feeling it.
Darian, there's so much talking. Oh, there's so much
This is a
talking.
Simon film. Lots of talking.
And they're talking about music. And even
Mm.
if you don't know about music, you can, they don't go too out there that you can't follow. But it's really, I was as I was watching it, I was imagining watching it with my younger brother who is working on his doctorate in musicology. And I'm just like, oh man, this would be so much fun to just
Yeah.
watch with him because it's a music nerd movie.
Right.
But don't let that deter anyone if you're not a music nerd because I think it's one of those movies. Even if you don't get what they're talking about, it is such a joy to watch these actors act and do their thing. I mean, it's just I can't.
Yeah.
Kate
It's great
Blanchett, man.
screen presence, man.
Yeah,
Tremendous screen presence.
her charisma is, it's there with the Denzel Washington.
Yes.
I mean, it's just like
Yes.
she is magnetic on screen. She is the special effect. You know,
Yes. Just her look is very different. Just there's something about it's very sexy in a weird way.
very Australian.
Yeah. Yeah. There's
Um,
something there going on.
yeah, I think she's just very elegant
Elegant.
and
Yes.
in a way that seems otherworldly even when she's just playing even when she's like looking her worst. She has this kind
Yeah.
of otherworldly elegance where it's like, oh, this is what a Greek goddess looks like when they're at their
Yeah.
worst,
Kind of like, I mean, maybe not the same, but I always think like Tilda Swinton. She's a strange looking woman,
Very
but
strange.
she has this very alien looking appearance, what I would deem to be. and
Yeah.
she grabs the screen whenever she's on. There's something about that, you know. Some people
Yeah,
just have that. I don't know. It's just a thing.
they really do. And yeah, I think, like David Bowie had that.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, and in fact, I think Tilda Swinton would be a great David Bowie.
That's true. That's, you know what? Great idea.
Wouldn't that be great
Simon,
to
it's
see
your time to
her
work on this.
star in a biopic of David Bowie?
You would hate working on that movie. You'd like trash it in 2 months. You'd be like, we're done with this.
Yeah,
Like,
we'd be like,
I wrote a
oh.
whole thing and I got rid of it.
Yeah.
That's so Simon. I hated it. Like,
That is true. That is true. I was going down the wormhole of my own music last night with somebody who wasn't very familiar with it, and just
Yeah.
talking to them about it. And I was like, oh man, I'd forgotten I'd even done this stuff. And I was telling them one of the Urban Jack albums. I said, listen, don't listen to that one. All right, here's like 2 or 3 tracks off that one that are listenable. Don't bother yourself with the rest. And they're like, what are you talking about? I'm like, listen, I know it. I know that album, and I made some kind of stupid analogy, like go to a car mechanic or some stupid thing. It was like, not every time you fix a car is it the best thing you've ever done.
yeah.
And that's the same with being an artist. It's like, not everything I do is the best thing I've ever done.
Of course.
I freely acknowledge that. And I am not going to return to listen to that album, and I don't think you should either.
Just don't do it, man.
I've done much better things that are much more, once again, the whole value of time. These other things are much more worth your time. Don't
Yeah.
bother with that one.
So everyone, I want you to realize this. If Simon's not spending any time with you, that's all that needs to be said. Like, I don't want to say, I was going to say something else, but it would sound way worse than that.
Oh,
If you listen to this, you already
Enough
know.
said.
Enough
Said.
It's not that interesting.
It's really funny. It's really funny. Well, I mean, that's the best compliment I can give anybody. And it's how I express love to my children.
Yeah.
I can't give them everything I want to give them. I can't, I can't do all the things with them that I'd want to do with them. But sometimes I can just sit in the same room as them.
Yeah.
When they're doing something that I'm not interested in, but I can still be there. And my wife, sometimes doesn't think she does that enough, but she does it at times where I just really can't.
Yeah.
My oldest son, Moses, killed his first deer recently.
Mm-hmm.
He's had it aging in the downstairs fridge, and now he's starting to process the meat. It's like, listen, guys. You judge me all you want, but I can't do it.
Simon ain't gonna be there, man.
There's a reason I'm a vegetarian.
That's exactly right.
I can't do it. So Shannon's there with him.
Yeah.
Shannon's there with him, making deer steaks and deer hamburger. And that's beautiful. And so that's how you balance each other out.
Yeah.
When you're parenting.
Yeah. I actually asked my daughter the other day, and this was actually from a message that our pastor had. But, I went to my daughter and I said, how can I love you better? Like, how do you enjoy us to be together as a father and a daughter? And she said, I just like you being, like, keep doing what you're doing. I like you being around. Like, most of the stuff she does, I'm not that interested in, but we can like sit next to each other, just kind of parallel time with each other.
Yeah.
And she finds that to be like the absolute best thing in the world. She loves that. And I'm like, I could do that. I'll just keep doing that,
Yeah. I think sometimes parents don't realize that is everything to your kid. It really is. It's just like, I remember going on a road trip with my dad. We were actually helping his mother move.
Yeah.
and we were moving her down from. We were driving the U-Haul, and I was too young to drive, so I'm just sitting in the passenger seat the whole time.
Yeah.
And either my dad or I are great conversationalists when it comes to maybe like the two of us. And I think we're better at it now, but I think
Yeah.
especially when I'm young, I don't know, I mean,
Sure.
but it's just a dynamic. So anyway, we're not talking like that much on the drive down, but we're just sitting in the same
Yeah.
U-Haul truck together
Yeah.
for a week, as we drive my grandmother down to Las Vegas.
Yeah.
You know? And I think parents will sometimes diminish or just not be cognizant of how bonding it can be to just sit in silence as you drive down the highway.
Yeah. So true. Yeah, it's so true. My dad and I did a cross country trip when he moved me out to Las Vegas to start my doctorate.
Mm.
And it was awesome. I don't even remember what we talked about, but I know we started out the trip by listening to his favorite artist of all time, Jimi Hendrix. And we listened to
Yeah.
that all the way through like St. Louis and all this stuff. And we just listened to something he loved. And it was just so memorable. Again, I don't remember what we talked about, but I'll
Mhm.
never forget that trip. It was just, I think we can't diminish stuff like that. It's
No,
really
you
important.
can't. And I mean, people can see my father and see me and say, "Oh man, you guys are nothing alike,"
Yeah.
and blah blah blah. Well, we both love Elvis.
There you go.
I mean, because he played Elvis all the time when we were kids,
Yeah.
and I developed a great love and appreciation for Elvis. Did I tell you I showed the kids one of the old Elvis movies about a
I
month
don't
ago or
think
so?
so. I'm not sure.
There's an Elvis movie called Tickle Me.
That sounds really bad.
Here was the deal. I told the kids, I said, "Listen, you're about to watch one of the best bad movies you'll ever see. But here is the challenge. I'm challenging all of you. So you have to pay real close attention because I'm going to ask you at the end of this film, why is it called Tickle Me?"
Yeah.
There is no rhyme or reason. There's no song in it that Elvis sings called Tickle Me. Nobody ever talks about being tickled. Nobody makes a reference to tickling. There is none of it. None of it. Absolute zero. Let me summarize this movie for you,
Okay.
if I may. Elvis is a rodeo rider, comes into town, gets stood up by whoever is supposed to meet him, ends up singing in a bar. At that bar, he ends up getting in a fight because he's too sexy for his own good, and all the other guys' ladies want him. Well, this woman who owns a ranch says, "Well, why don't you come work for me?" And he decides he'll do that until the rodeo season starts. He shows up at the ranch, and it's not a ranch per se. It is a health spa, and they help like movie starlets and things like that get in shape and stuff like. Basically, they starve them.
It's just strange.
Yeah. And he's supposed to be like taking care of the horses that they go horseback riding on. And it's this wonderful scene where they act like they're, please, athletes who actually ride horses, don't take this as a slight, because there's riding horses and there's taking a stroll sitting atop a horse. And that's
Yeah,
what they
of
were
course.
doing. And they were acting like this was like some workout for the day. It was just so amazing. Okay, so there's somebody at the ranch who works at the ranch as well. She's gorgeous. So I was totally in love with her as a kid. But her grandfather was a prospector at one of these gold mines in the area. And there's a ghost town where he's hidden the gold. And there is a conspiracy in the local law enforcement, and other employees at this ranch to find the map that she has of her grandfather's and go and get the gold and steal it. And then in the end, it turns into a Scooby-Doo cartoon complete with masks, like monster masks, and like having to unmask the villain at the end. I mean, it
Wow.
is
That sounds bad.
incredible. It's in freaking incredible. And there's like moments where like they're supposed to be in this haunted hotel at the end, and it's like it's a total Scooby-Doo cartoon.
Yeah.
It's total, and it's so, oh my gosh. So my kids, they kind of loved it, and all of us kind
Yeah.
of love it and kind of hate it at the same time. It's like, this makes no sense. This is
Yeah.
absolutely stupid. Why is it called Tickle Me?
That's really weird, actually. It's really Simon, you're on some weird stuff, man. I mean, it's like
Isn't that the strangest movie you've ever heard
no, it's
of?
really strange. I'm questioning why you told me about it actually right now.
Because here's what I want to know. It's like, who wrote that script? Who presented that script? And who said, this is the script we're using, and let's get Elvis?
It's a different time. There's still bad movies like that.
There's still bad movies, but I mean, it's just kind of like, I just don't get it sometimes. And I was talking to the kids about it later. It's like, I don't understand. Elvis wasn't a terrible actor. You could have put him in some good stuff.
Right.
But you just chose to do this. This was a choice.
I'm choosing to do this with you. Unfortunately, I hate when these have to end because literally, I think Simon and I could do like a marathon show of like 8-9 hours, and it would just
We
be
totally could.
fun for us mainly the whole time.
We totally could.
It may kill other people, but man, you are my dude. You're an awesome guy, even though you've sent me a lot of bad texts this week. I'm sure I'll get more. I'm trying to be nice, and this what happens to me.
Just keeping it real, bro. Just keeping it real.
Simon, thank you so much. Seriously, man. This is
Thank you.
always wonderful. Seriously.
Thank you for giving me your time.
Of course, man. All right, man.
See ya.